Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today's guests, the Utica Teens in Action, have rescheduled for May 5th, so they will be here then. On the next Hot Seat Meeting Monday, I'll talk to journalist Rocco Laduca about the mob files. It was a series of articles he wrote in the OD. First, Lorraine Kramer will return to the show with Mr. Figby and all of her whimsical delights of Rainbow Land. Probably remember her from a few months ago on the show. She'll have her characters back and her voices and all that fun. On Monday, April 28th, the craft people from Castock will be here. And on May 5th, then we'll have the Utica Teens in Action. They'll be here to talk about the Young Entrepreneurs Academy. But today, we're talking about media with our regular crew here, Nabil Khan and DJ J Easy. So, J Easy, let me go to you first. So we talked about video games in the last segment. What's happening in music?
Well, it's just people working. As a matter of fact, for tonight I have like a lot of like new releases or recent releases that come out like over the past month or so.
From who? Like, what are some of the things you're gonna preview?
Mostly from artists that have been around for a while. Like I got new music from Akon. You remember Akon?
Yeah.
New music from actually Bow Wow.
Wow.
He's on the.
This goes back a way.
Yeah, he's on the Millennium Tour right now
with
Omarion and RSVP and all that. So he and Chris Brown reunited to make some new music. So I got that on deck.
I feel like we're talking about my high school.
Right. So you probably remember John B from the '90s.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, he came out with
Someone
some
to
new
Love?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Him and Babyface.
You ordered Babyface a lot, yeah.
Yep. So he just came out with some.
What's
new
Babyface
music.
up to?
He put out an album like I want to say either last year or the year before. He's had a lot of collabs. It was called Girls Night Out. I've played some of the songs, on my shows, but he's still
Wasn't
doing
his wife a
his thing.
singer too? Was she Pebbles, his wife, or? It seems
No,
like his wife
no,
had some
no.
hits in the '90s, or
No, that was L.A. Reid's
or Karen
wife.
White. Is Karen White? Is he married to Karen White?
No, Karen White was married to Terry Lewis.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. I love Karen White too. That's the '90s. Is that before your time, Karen White? It's interesting how people can like be a big star for like a while, then they kind of do. They are kind of, unfortunately, but. You remember Karen White, right?
Yep, I play her a whole lot.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad she's still,
Yeah, so, she's still doing her thing, too.
Yeah.
She has to put out some new music. It's been a while for her, but
yeah.
She's still out here.
So what do you listen to, Nabil?
Oh my God, I'm one of those, like when you hit my Spotify, you're gonna hear a little bit of everything, and a lot of people say that, but when I say it, I do mean like everything. You might hear like rock, you might hear K-pop, you might hear Bollywood. I mean, like.
So you really do have a variety.
Yeah.
So
Some
basically,
Akon.
so basically, he's saying he'll play anything from System of a Down to Soulja Boy.
You got it. Soulja Boy, tell him.
Yeah.
So how do you pick your songs? Is it like how do you know like what's new and what's coming out and like what's the latest stuff and how do you access it?
I personally subscribe to a couple record pools.
Mm-hmm.
DJs usually have different subscriptions where they'll download like either like old stuff that you really can't find anywhere else, or
really?
latest releases.
Yeah,
They'll be available on the record pools. Like specifically for us being on the radio, we'll get the record pools because they have like clean versions of songs that you're not going to find like on YouTube or something like that.
Right.
And plus it's coming from the labels directly also.
Yeah.
So that's makes it more better.
So the labels like make this available because they probably want you to play their
Right.
artists, right? So.
Right. And DJs have record pools where it'll have like the original copies, but they'll have like different remixes. For like parties or
like
in a
extended
club or
cuts.
whatever.
Yeah.
So they'll download like remixes that you're not gonna find a lot of places.
Do the record companies like try to pitch the songs to you guys? They're DJs like in the old days. I actually worked at a music store too at Warden's, and like they would send us stuff, and like we would just store, like not the songs, but like
Mhm.
we would get discs and CDs and posters and stuff. Do they still do that kind of thing?
I'm
Probably
pretty,
not as much, but I mean,
I'm pretty sure they do because radio is still
oh
a
yeah, I mean,
viable
of course, right?
platform.
Yeah,
Whether it's broadcast radio like FM radio like we are, or whether it's online radio like Sirius XM or
Right.
things like that. It's still a viable platform that people listen to.
right.
Or even for like streaming platforms like Spotify or Tidal or things like that. So definitely labels will reach out and
To try
say,
to get you to play stuff and
right.
yeah,
Now, me personally, I've never, well, actually, I experienced one time. Michael Bivens from Belle Biv DeVoe,
Yeah.
New Edition. He not too long ago released a documentary, about his life and his come up in the music
I
business,
didn't
things
know
like
that,
that. And part of that documentary was Belle Biv DeVoe put out, a new single, which was featuring Rev Run, for Run DMC.
yeah.
So he put out on Instagram, asking all the DJs to, send their information, and he would send the track to them.
Great.
So, obviously,
So he did
I'm
that,
a big
yeah.
Belle Biv DeVoe fan, so I sent in
Yeah.
my email, and he sent it to me, and I've been playing it on
Nice.
the air. So yeah,
I'm surprised more people don't do that. More of the artists that directly and stuff. I mean,
yeah, a lot of people are more, I don't know if it's like, they feel they're too good to, reach out
to hustle and stuff.
yeah, to the DJs, or they might, just have certain people that they rock with, and
Yeah.
that's it. But whatever the case is, it's all right. We'll get it.
Do the record companies still have like the same amount of money for like promotion and for like like they would in the past, or like is that like curtailed, or like probably hard to compare it if you don't really know, like, but
Somewhere they do, because obviously the music business has changed like tremendously over
Yeah.
the years and decades.
I mean
Like
it must be hard for them to make money with all the streaming stuff. It's
Right, right, and that's a lot of artists' complaints too, is that they're not really getting paid off of the streaming.
Yeah, right.
So
I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of like have converted some of that marketing effort from like the banners and the discs and things you were mentioning to more like social media advertising.
Digital
I mean,
ads and
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean like that stuff costs too, and it's just
Right.
Mhm.
cheaper
right.
to do that than pay somebody to manufacture things.
Is that like? Do they still make videos for every song? Everybody told me one time
God,
that they
they
make like.
They still make music videos. It's not as
You said there
prevalent.
was like a lesser like a sample video or something you were telling me about one time, like maybe like less produced or.
It all depends on the artist and what they're willing to do, I guess you could say. But yeah, they still make full blown music videos. It's not like I said, it's not as prevalent as it was back
Yeah.
in the TRL or 106 and Park days.
Like when
and
every song had
things like that,
video.
right.
It's not like that where it's like
right.
you
So if you want to see music videos, it's at this point pretty much straight YouTube.
Yeah.
If you want to look
is
at
that
music
where they
videos,
is that
yeah.
the place you see it?
But yeah, they still make them.
Is MTV still around though? Like what do they play? Like just programming or like shows or?
MTV is
Teen Mom.
I was
yeah.
gonna say, is it like reality like
Like-
everything else nowadays?
Like I said, MTV used to be known for music television. Now it's just media television. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah,
it's
I
a
agree
bunch
with
of
that.
reality shows.
I was thinking
and,
that, yeah.
things like that. It's not definitely not the same.
And that's one thing I don't understand. Like, it seemed like they had a great business model. The record companies
Mhm.
would provide them with the programming for free, and
Mm-hmm.
like it was a unique thing. The channel had videos. It was the only
Mhm.
one. And
I think it's because of the same reason as like people watch less like cable TV now. A lot of people are subscribing to other forms of media, and to
Yeah.
be locked into having to look at it in this one spot is harder for some people.
Right.
Kids open their phones and they could open TikTok and in 2 seconds you're seeing a video versus
yeah,
turning on the TV, finding MTV. Like it
Right.
sounds like a lot. I mean, we know it's not
It
a
seems
lot of
like a
effort, but it's a
no-brainer
lot of
that-
effort to them.
right. I mean, it seems like if they like TikTok, that MTV would be the perfect thing. But I guess that step of like going from your phone to the
Anybody
TV
can
is
do
like,
it though. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So I mean, like
Just watching on TikTok is
that could
what-
be
is what
that could
they
be your
think.
sample video if you're a big star. You make a TikTok, it costs you nothing.
Right.
other than whoever you're paying to hold your phone while you do the stuff.
So
Mhm.
like, where do you guys watch your videos? Like you subscribe to this service, but like, where do you hear stuff? Like, what do you listen to outside of here? Like when you're not, you listen to Spotify. You said
Spotify, audiobooks, reels. I mean, like
Yeah.
you
Oh,
can fall
yeah,
down.
yeah,
You could fall
right.
down a rabbit hole of reels. Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
You watch one wrong reel, and suddenly for a week you're seeing something that you would never
You know
never
what's
watched.
interesting is I get reels on Facebook now pushed to me,
Yep.
and all these reels have like a common theme.
Sure.
They're an apartment. They're a corner apartment in a city.
Mm.
Outside the weather's really bad,
Uh-huh.
but inside it's like really nice.
Mhm.
They always have 2 floors. It's like a studio apartment with 2 floors.
Mhm.
The upper floor is where the bed is,
Uh-huh.
and it usually has like a railing that's glass.
Mhm.
So like this apartment that I don't know what this is. It's like an AI thing. Like there's one after the other, but like it always makes me think like I wouldn't want to live there because of the bed sits like
Mhm.
it's too high. The heights. But I
Mhm.
think like why? Who's making these and why are these in my feed all the time? And there's
The-
always a TV screen, a big TV, and it's always showing Tom and Jerry cartoons.
The
Isn't that weird?
The algorithm heard you describe the apartment that you didn't want, but wasn't smart enough to know not to send you the videos for
It's
it.
so weird.
Right.
Like I don't remember ever talking about like
No.
an apartment or like living in the city or watching cartoons on a big TV. But like it's always like that. It's so weird.
You know,
It's like a recurring dream that I'm
Yeah.
having.
it really doesn't take a lot for that to happen. Like you could just be in like a random conversation and just
Yeah.
mention, "Oh yeah, I remember the Tom and Jerry episode." And the next thing you know,
It's
Yeah.
on Facebook.
you're seeing all kinds of Tom and Jerry.
And
Yeah,
sometimes
it's
it's
like
not
that.
even you. You got your phone
Oh,
out and
right,
you're walking by
yeah.
somebody else and they talk and you're in your own world. You're talking to somebody else, and
Right.
suddenly your phone caught somebody else's conversation and it affected what you're seeing.
It's a
Mhm.
really like creepy thing to
A
think
little bit.
about. It's
A
like,
little bit.
but like with these videos and the reels, like
Mhm.
it's so like weird and so specific and like
Can
over
be.
and over again. Like I keep seeing these and it's like, what is that? Like it's the strangest thing.
Well, sometimes it's a little bit of a trap too, because like.
But I
they-
do click on them, so then they know that I'll watch more.
That's
It's
what I
like-
was gonna say. So if you sat there and watched it for any prolonged amount of time, suddenly the algorithm has decided, oh well, he watched that for a whole 30 seconds. He must like it. Let's show
They
him
must
more.
think I like to
Exactly.
see these
Yep.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like it's
Mhm.
it's just so strange because like the cartoon is always the same.
Uh-huh.
It's always has 2 floors, always an apartment, always a studio apartment with like a loft.
Mhm.
The bed is always up too high, so it always seems like scary.
Now-
And it has big windows, like with bad
see,
weather outside.
See now, me and Jay aren't even gonna have to look this
You're
up.
gonna
Though
get that
our
on your
phones
phone
are gonna
too.
hear it.
Right, right.
It's like the
You're
riddle.
listening.
Everyone who hears is going to have their pop up on their phone.
Mhm.
So what else is happening in music? What about like performances? Who have you been having on the show? You have guests on your show, Jay-Z, all the time. The Saturday Sizzle and
Yeah. Recently I've had PB Mogul on the show. He's consistently dropping music. Actually, I need to download his latest single because he sent it to me, for play on the show. So I have to download that so I can have it available Saturday.
oh yeah,
Gigi Esco, she's another local artist.
Yep.
She was on my show most recently, dropping music,
Yep.
things like that. So yeah,
it's so great
People are
that
working
we're
out
here
here.
to support these. Get
Yes.
the stuff on the air too.
Yes.
It's like, yeah.
it's great to have this platform to be able to do that because opportunities are few and far between,
To be
especially
heard.
in this area. So
Oh yeah.
I'm very glad to, have this platform be able to do that.
So like, what do those artists do to market their work other than to come on the show? Like, what do they do without like the big marketing push? The big record companies behind them.
Social
They're
media.
like us. We have to promote ourselves. So what do they do?
Yep, social media.
Yeah.
They'll post, and have people, share their posts or,
Yeah.
like I said, they still, make music videos.
Right.
So, because YouTube.
These local people too.
Yeah.
So how would they do that? Like what are the videos like?
It's just like any other music video. We have various, filmmakers. And,
Oh yeah, right.
videographers
it makes
out
sense.
here.
Yeah, right.
So they'll hit up a certain videographer and link up time to create the video and everything like that, and post it up on YouTube or on their social media pages.
Yeah.
Like on Facebook they have like fan pages, things like that, or different like streaming platforms. They'll put their videos and music on. So yeah, music videos are still not as prevalent, but they're still prevalent.
That's good to know, because I always, I didn't get to see many because we didn't have MTV in Westmoreland because no cable. So it's like, well, I'm on my road. So, but so I didn't see them. So Nabil, you have to go and that's what's happening with Nabil. So like, you have to leave at 5:40, right? So I'm a little bit confused here. So like, what's gonna happen next with gaming, like Dungeons, D&D and stuff? Like what's happening with that?
D&D. There's nothing crazy going on with D&D at the moment. Here's what I'll give you though. We were talking about Final Fantasy between one of the things, right? Final Fantasy's long-standing game, started way back on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
They still make them now. So Final Fantasy has a big crossover happening in June with Magic the Gathering.
Oh,
Have
yeah?
you ever heard of that? Magic cards?
Yeah.
So they're releasing an entire set of
So like a
Magic
video
cards.
game with a card game.
Well, so they're releasing an entire set of the card game that are just all Final Fantasy characters.
Wow.
But that are playable in the game.
Oh, cool.
So I mean, like me at the store right now, I've got people like left and right saying, "I want this, I want that," because it comes out in June.
Yeah.
And like, because it's such a big crossover, they're not going to give us as much as we'd like.
Yeah.
I ask for 10 and maybe I get 3 or whatever. So that's a big like video game sort of push to get them into the card scene.
Right.
They're sort of looking for some conversion.
Good idea. Yeah.
They did it
at Comic Book Day, right?
We do it free comic book.
When is that? That's coming up, right?
First Saturday in May for all you guys
Cool.
listening.
Hey.
It is National Free Comic Book Day.
I love that.
Even if you're not in the Utica area and you can't make it to Ravenswood,
Yeah.
wherever you are that has a local comic book store should be participating.
Free comic
They
books.
should have free comics to give to kids, adults, whatever. Ideally, some kind of sales or something to attract you into the store.
Nice. And so you'll be back here on the first Monday in May. We'll talk about that. What's happening in comics and blockbuster films and video games and stuff. Nabil Khan, thanks for being on the show. Jay-Z, in the next segment, we'll talk about your play at Players Theater, Absent Friends. Today I'm talking to Nabil Khan and Jay-Z. I'm Ron Kalkenstein. You're in the hot seat on the Media Monday. More after the break.
Bank of Utica is a...
And you're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. On the next Hot Seat Media Monday, I'll be talking to journalist Rocco Leduco about the Mob Files, his series of articles in the Observer Dispatch. Then on April 21st, Lorraine Krameyer will return to talk about Mr. Figby and all the characters and whimsical delights of Rainbow Land. On Monday, April 28th, the crafters from Catstock will be here to talk about the stuff they're making and the show they're going to have and raising money for the cats and also for dogs too. On May 5th, we will then meet the Teens in Action, the Utica Teens in Action, and talk about the Young Entrepreneurs Academy. But today we're going to talk about media, music, and video games with Nabil Khan. And now I'm joined by Jonathan Brooks, DJ J-Eazy. And you're in a play. You were in a play this past weekend. It opened, and it's continuing this weekend too, right?
Yes.
What's it called?
The play is called Absent Friends. It's going on at Players of Utica over there on State Street. And yes, this weekend was opening weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's been incredible. Like, we've had really good turnouts.
Great.
Got really, great reviews.
Yeah.
And after the show ends, we like to go out and, meet the people that, came and saw the show, and they've been just so supportive and, congratulatory and things like that. So we've been enjoying this experience like so much, and we get to do it all again this weekend.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right?
Yes, Friday night at 7:30.
Yep.
Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m.
So who's your character? Who do you play?
My character coincidentally is named John.
Worked out good.
Yes, definitely. So, all right. So, a brief synopsis about the play. It's about a group of friends that try to come together to support one of their friends who's recently lost his fiance. But there's so many different, situations going on between the friends that it ends up being revealed that, the character that, is supposed to be, in this bad headspace, grieving, things like that.
Yeah.
Ends up, and he's actually doing better than the friends are.
So like the friends
So-
reveal stuff about themselves and their own lives as they try to help their
Yeah,
buddy.
different, things going on,
Yeah.
between the friends and, things like that. So my character is John. I'm one of the friends that has, something going on between, a couple other friends. Like, I won't give too much away.
No
you gotta
spoilers, but
come in and see the
Yeah.
play. But yeah, so it's been a great experience. Like I said, the response has been just so loving, and
so what made you decide to try out for the role of John? Well, what about that character in this show?
well, initially I did not, try out specifically for that role.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying out just to try out because I wanted to get back into acting.
So like, what do you do when you just try out to try out? They just give you like a generic part, or like you just go to auditions and say like what's available and.
Yeah, well, this particular time, I know different directors probably have, their different things that they like to do with,
Yeah.
auditioning. But when I auditioned, the director, Eric Omleaf, we had a read through, a couple scenes here and there.
Yeah.
But then he had like different exercises to show,
Get
how
into
we
character.
can, portray different,
Yeah.
scenarios that he would give us, to
What are some of those exercises that you did?
okay, like for instance, my particular exercise was I had to look at like plates and silverware, things like that, examine them and try to portray that I like what I'm looking at, but
Without
in the
words.
back of my head,
Oh.
in the back of my head, I'm thinking about like my brother just got this promotion, so he's able to, afford nicer things. So I'm, comparing what I'm looking at to what he's able to get.
So a little bit of jealousy at the same time.
Yeah, a little bit of that. So, had to, find ways to convey that, and
So-
had other people that were auditioning had to guess what I was trying to,
Yeah.
the message I was trying to, convey.
So you had to think of like two competing thoughts in your head and convey that somehow without words.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been kind of a challenge.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with like facial expressions,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
mannerisms, things like that. So
How important are facial expressions in a play? Because like some of the audiences is like far away. So how do you know to like? You probably, I would assume, like sort of like exaggerate a bit so people can see it from far
Mhm.
out. Is that true?
yeah, it can be very crucial. How
I'll
you
bet.
display what's going on. Like for instance, another cast member, Tom, he plays the part of Paul.
Mhm.
He is like such a professional. Like the facial expressions he makes, like during rehearsals, I have to, kind of remember that I'm in rehearsal because I just want to crack up. I have a weird sense of humor anyway. So,
Yeah.
So looking at him and the expressions he makes, I just get caught up, looking at him and how he's
Yeah.
acting,
Yeah.
how he's portraying, and I just like, wow, he is so good. But,
Yeah.
I mean, all of us are really, like I
Yeah,
said, the whole
yeah.
cast has been amazing.
What are some other exercises that you did to like help with acting?
Well, one
That's
thing
a cool
we
one
did,
with the thoughts in your head,
yeah, one thing we did like in rehearsal one time is the director, excuse me, the director had us, rehearsed our lines. You know, we was going through the scenes.
I always see things like with with acting. I think we've had actors on here before that like talked about some of the games that people play. Like there was one with the ball that like they would throw back and forth, I think, and like say stuff. And people do all different stuff to I guess it would be a good exercise to try to wordlessly portray a character, because you would have to do everything in body language and face. And body language must be a really big thing too, that
Right.
a lot of people probably don't think about that, but you as an actor, you have to, right?
Definitely. So what I was gonna say is that during rehearsal we were going over our lines and acting out scenes and stuff like that, but the director had us do different body movements to, number one, help us maintain focus,
Yeah.
and number two, to see how we can portray what we're doing.
Right.
Like, he would have us in a circle, doing like if we're moving in an airplane, or if we're a train, or things like that,
yeah.
while we're going through rehearsal, while we're acting out our scenes,
What
going
did
through
that-
lines and things like that.
Why? How does that help?
Well, like I said, it helps strengthen our focus.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? It's like if you have multiple things going on at once, a lot of times you can focus on one thing and just completely forget about the other.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
If we're focusing on our movements, then we might forget the lines we're about to say.
Oh, I see. Right.
So we need to
On stage, that could be really bad.
right.
It's
So-
kind of like doing these shows. You have to be so focused on the conversation. It's because if you're not, you can get so lost so fast, right?
But
How did you develop your character's body language? How did you think about that with in this part? When do you think about that? Do you look at lines that are super intense and think in this moment he should be doing this as I talk, or what's your approach?
Well, my approach, and I think the rest of the cast approach also, is we of course look at the lines, and we see what's going on in the scene,
Yeah.
and we of course think of like you said, what we should be doing in that scene.
Yeah.
But a lot of times too, I know I can speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure I can speak for the rest of the cast as well, is that we let a lot of things just flow naturally.
Yeah.
Like how we would react, but try to put a little spin on it, for the character,
Right.
because it's not necessarily us
Yeah.
reacting, it's
Yeah.
that character reacting. So
Are there times with body language in particular, where you do something, or with your emoting, there's
Mhm.
something that's really not how you would express it normally, and you're consciously being the character but not yourself?
Mhm.
Are there certain scenes or places where that happens in the show?
Yeah, there's a scene where I'm kind of going back and forth with my wife,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily how I would approach
Right.
a conversation with my wife, or a disagreement,
Right.
but the character, he's a whole different thing.
What's he feeling at that moment?
So the particular scene that I'm thinking of is kind of a little bit of an embarrassment
Yeah.
type thing.
So
'cause-
how do you portray that?
Well, I give the lines, of course, but I'm thinking how I would react in that situation, but also knowing what my character is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
mannerisms that my character has, just trying to combine the two to portrayed, how his response would be to, whatever his wife is saying or,
Yeah.
what she's doing, things like that.
What are some of the mannerisms that like you develop for the character? Like, what are some things that maybe he does that like you don't do, that like you have to be thinking about, I gotta do this because it's not what I do, but like the character does it. Like maybe walks a certain way or picks things up a certain way, or like even like maybe physically like lurches or anything. I haven't seen the play yet, but
Yeah.
I don't think body language is a lot. There's so much you
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like different things, like like I said, with the conversation between him and his wife, the little dialogue, his response would be like a little loud.
Yeah, like that.
And I'm not really like a loud person.
Right,
like that.
right.
So that's one of the things.
So did you like write down on like your physical script like to get loud, like a note, or did you just remember that or practice?
I personally did not.
Yeah.
I just practiced.
And it's just like keep doing it like that. So like
Mhm.
you naturally like kind of taking a deep breath or whatever to yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you like a little bit about my character. My character is like kind of fidgety.
Yeah.
Can't really like stay still.
So you have to be doing that all the time too, probably, right?
Right.
Was that hard to like maintain that?
Not really, because it's like when I'm rehearsing for like a performance or whatever. I'm rehearsing lyrics, like, or I could say like for anything, like the more you practice something, the more natural it feels.
And your musical performances are kind of like performances. I mean, they're performances too. So like you're comfortable on stage. I'm sure that helps.
Mhm.
So to keep that stuff. But I wonder, like, it must be hard at times to like think if your character fidgets, like to not stop doing that.
Yeah.
So, but I guess like a director helps with that too, to like remind you and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
he'll give you different pointers and things like that.
What's the most challenging part of this play, of your part in this play, or being in plays?
As far as preparing, or
Yeah, like anything. Like what would surprise people about it?
the most surprising part, I would say probably just how much goes into the preparation.
Yeah, what does go into it?
Yeah, because like previously I've only done like little musical parts and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
Really small parts in like musicals. So this was like, I think I'm saying this before, like my first like major role, like my first co-starring role, and
You must
know,
rehearse a lot.
right,
Yeah.
going into it, don't really expect all the things that
The time commitment, and it must be exhausting too, right? I would
it
think,
can be. It can be. That's why if you don't love what you do,
Yeah.
then you're not going to get the full satisfaction from it.
Right.
And I love performing. I love
Yeah.
entertaining. So
Yep.
it was preparing for this play. Work,
Yeah.
but it was also fun at the same time.
Oh, bad.
And
yeah.
plus, it helps that you have a great cast,
Yeah.
around with you
Yeah.
to help you get through that or to enjoy the experience with, and of course
Right.
the director and stage manager and stuff like that. So it's been
You must get like so tight knit, and
Yes.
the time, the experience
Yes.
of it, the intensity, it must be great,
definitely we've enjoyed just coming together and putting forth our best efforts, and
Yeah.
and it's been paying off.
Great. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I can't wait to see this weekend. So it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Players Theater in Utica. Absent Friends.
Yep, Players of Utica. We're right over there on State Street. Friday at 7:30, Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. You can get tickets at playersofutica.org, or you can purchase them at the door. General admission $20. Students are $12, and if you're a member
I
of
think there was a
Players of
senior
Utica,
thing too or something. I don't know, but-
what's that?
Was there a senior thing too or something? I can't remember.
I believe so.
But $20 is a good price for a play.
Yeah, I believe there's a season
It's a nice
discount.
place to get too. theater and stuff.
It is. It's
Yeah.
very intimate. You know.
Yeah. Good
So-
views no matter where you sit,
Mhm.
you know. So
Exactly.
well, and I'll have information about all this stuff on the show notes at uticaphoenix.net/Media Monday. Tonight I've been talking to Nabil Khan and DJ Jay Easy, who's up next. I'll have the video, podcast, and show notes online Wednesday at uticaphoenix.net/Media Monday. Jay Easy is our sound engineer. Jim Hale records the show for YouTube and podcast. Nabil Khan is our entertainment correspondent. I'm Ron Klopfenstein. I'll be back next week with another Hot Seat Media Monday.